I'll bring you the tea, but I'm not one to engage in gossip. Greetings from ViralA-Listers. I don't have time for gossip right now, please. We have too, yes. Time for another Diddy update, then. Judge Subramanian, who is now hearing Diddy's case, urged the defense and the prosecution to present instances of past cases in which Diddy was found guilty under the same statute. This statute, which was essentially transportation for prostitutes, was called the Mann Act. As Diddy had no criminal background, the judge now also wished to see cases where the parameters were determined under the same clause. Both parties now produced their receipts. However, Judge Subramanian informed them before they took that action. Avoid arguing. Avoid spinning it. Tell me the data, please. He continued, I need to see cases where the main conviction was specifically the Mann Act and where the guidelines show a criminal history of Category 1, meaning this person had little or no past record. The problem is that this was meant to be a group project. The goal was for the prosecution and defense to write a united letter. Diddy's team refused to comply with the judge's request for simplicity. They stated that they would be sending their case list straight to the court because the Y were unable to share it with the government before filing. At best, Diddy's team appears obstructive. At worst, they are blatantly secretive. Now that both sides have presented their own examples, the judge has over 60 cases from 2005 to 2024, with the government providing a lengthy list from around the nation and the defense doing its part as well. What does this signify for Diddy, then? Judge Subramanian has the last word and can sentence Diddy to a sentence above or below the guidelines as long as he provides an explanation, even though it is extremely improbable that he will receive the maximum statutory sentence of 20 years, which equates to 10 years for each conviction. We will therefore discuss all of this and a lot more. But before we do, hit the bell for notifications and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any updates on this case or anything else. Let's get back to it now. Sean P.D. Combs was taken into custody at his hotel on September 16, 2024. Even he probable why didn't anticipate spending a year in a jail cell. But here we are, nearly a year later, without bail. The judge shot down every attempt to leave. The trial lasted 8 weeks, and on July 2, 2025, the jury returned with its decision after only 3 days of deliberation. Diddy was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation for the purpose of prostitution, often known as the Mann Act, but not convicted of the major RICO racketeering conspiracy or sex trafficking allegations. To be sure, Diddy did defeat the government on the most serious counts, but convictions for those Mann Acts still carry a lot of weight. He may theoretically spend up to 20 years in prison because each one has a maximum penalty of 10 years. However, we're looking at about 3 to 7 years with the government pushing him toward the upper end, based on the rules and the comparisons both parties supplied the judge. Thus, roughly 80 examples were gathered by the authorities. What are the findings of those 80 cases? Demonstrate how those who had no prior convictions were still sentenced to years in prison for the single conduct. In certain situations where coercion or obstruction was involved, we're talking about 18 months, 30 months, 5 years, and 8 years. Thus, the government provided a few examples, like the Florida case of Filica Elmastica. The punishment in this escort service-style case was around 4 years. Christina Green and the government are at odds. This case relates to prostitution management in New York. The term was around 5 years. Rashawn Parks is up against the United States. It happened in Washington, D.C., is a form of organized prostitution. 6 years was the penalty. Next up is Brandon Wright versus the United States. Texas was the location of this. The Mann Acts with conviction. 7 years was the sentence. Additionally, they pulled certain cases using Diddy's exact guidelines. One person involved in the Elliot Spitzer controversy is Mark Briner. He received a sentence of 2.5 years and 30 months. Additionally, we have Dylan Jordan, a former Hollywood producer who is now a pimp. He received a 5-year sentence. Additionally, retired Judge Ronald Thiels received an 18-month term. Thus, depending on the circumstances, the prosecution's cases demonstrate a wide range of 18 months to 7 years. There is now a bracket for Judge Subramanian. Diddy is being portrayed as being more similar to those more severe outcomes, such as Dylan Jordan's 5 years, and Brandon Wright's 7 years, because to his behavior with numerous women, long-term freak-offs, transportation, and the prosecution's accusation that he is a mastermind. However, the defense is urging the judge to view him similarly to the less serious instances, which involve older men, first-time offenders, and those who receive sentences shorter than 2 years. Diddy's group therefore adopted a different strategy. In addition, I'm not sure if Diddy will benefit from it. Diddy's team now filed alone, rather than collaborating with the government on a joint submission. 2 lists were presented to the judge. Section 2421A, sometimes referred to as the Mann Act, was the sole conviction in 63 cases from the Sentencing Commission's database between 2005 and 2024. They took a second, far larger list of Mann Act cases from PACER. In its own letter, they now acknowledged that many of his dockets lack comprehensive information. You can't even tell if the guidelines were followed in some of them, and some of them have missing sentencing specifics. Man, you don't have the answers. You're not the answer provider. Hundreds of incidents were listed by Diddy's crew. Look, Judge, there are tons of cases where folks walked away with probation or light time, is what his attorneys are essentially saying. Diddy shouldn't be slammed, then. The issue is that they're giving the judge hundreds of ducats, many of which don't have confirmed sentencing, and it could appear as though they're praising the record. In the meantime, the government presented a short list of roughly 80 cases in which individuals without any past records received 18 months, 30 months, 5 years, or even 8 years. In addition to failing to cooperate with the prosecution, as requested by the judge, the defense is now submitting hundreds of dockets without even verified sentencing. What are you contrasting them with, then? Would you like the judge to handle everything for you? I'm not even displaying the sentences that these people received. These are only a few of the incidents that Diddy's team brought up. Diddy's team is attempting to argue that light punishments are typical in this case, but the prosecution is responding with the words, "Stop the nonsense." The judge is left to resolve the matter. After many people completed it in real time, there are 2 piles of receipts, the government's, which is concise and orderly, and the defense list S, which is large and disorganized. Ultimately, this isn't about who can use the most paper to bury the court. It's about reality. The truth is that the judge has given examples of people receiving sentences of 2.5, 5, and 8 years for Mann Act accusations, while Diddy's team can yell probation all day long. The receipts don't support that. To put it mildly, this might result in him spending far more time behind bars than he ever would have thought. Therefore, October is the current sentencing date. Therefore, we will have to wait till then to find out exactly how this all works out. However, what I must do in the meanwhile is to listen to you. How do you feel about the Diddler situation as a whole? Leave a comment down below. Talk to you guys later. Goodbye. As always, thanks for watching, but before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of my new episodes.